Alright, today I have here a 99 Ford F-250. Now, I've been using this as my daily driver for 4 or 5 months now. So, just want to touch base on some things that, if you're considering buying one of these older model Ford biofuel vehicles, things to look out for, and a warning, I personally wouldn't recommend the biofuel version of this truck. So, the 99 version of the F-250 is what is now considered the 7700 F-150. You can see it's got the F-150 face, all that fun stuff. This is the light-duty F-250, as they call it. It's got an extended cab. Door's locked right now. I forgot my key inside, so can't open that up. But yeah, it's got the inside door here that opens up, and you've got a back bench in there. Mine came with these toolboxes, so that's pretty cool. Got the old CB set up here. And here is one of the drawbacks as far as the CNG goes. You've got less bed space. And a big issue that you'll see with a lot of these Fords that run on the biofuel system or just straight CNG is what's called the CompuValve. And the CompuValve really has a tendency to go out on these late 90s, early 2000s Fords. So I, for that alone, wouldn't recommend. See, there's the bench seat back there, bench seat up here. Pull the hood so I can show you the CompuValve. So the CompuValve on these has an enormous tendency, a very high failure rate. Like, I didn't know that before I purchased this. A good Ford F-250 truck, even a Ford F-150 truck with a 5.4 liter V8 Triton in it, in my area, costs between $4,000 and $6,000. I got this one for somewhere around $1,700, and I got it for such a deal because it is the biofuel system. I didn't realize it was that big a deal, but no mechanics in my area, just regular mechanics, can work on it. And it's an old truck, it's a 99, there's vacuum leaks that need taken care of. So I generally do work on things myself, but as you can see, this whole mess in here takes a lot of area, and this is the CompuValve. And with most trucks that are CNG or biofuel from the early 2000s to late 1990s, it runs off the CompuValve system, and the CompuValve system is utter garbage. So the CNG in this is non-operational, and I do plan on converting it back to just a gasoline engine. But to do that, I would need to pay about $750 for an entire swap, because that involves reprogramming or replacing the PCM. It involves replacing the spark plugs and the fuel injectors, all that fun stuff. So it's gonna be a project. But first of all, you have to decommission the tank in the back there, because it's a high pressure system. So for that alone, I would pass if I had a chance to do it again, because I didn't realize it was going to be that big of a headache. For example, I have a vacuum leak. Intake manifold gasket needs to be replaced. No big deal, right? I mean, I've done that before. It's not a big deal. But then when you consider all of this stuff, and you have to remove all of that to get to the intake, and it's all involved in a high pressure system, something I'm not personally knowledgeable about, and not exactly willing to risk my fingers with 3600 psi to mess around with. So that alone, I would not recommend this particular setup. But if you can get it cheap, and you plan on just taking it out like I'm gonna do, I mean, you can get it for relatively cheap. Even if I do pay the $720 on there, that's still a good truck for less than $3,000. This one in particular used to be a vehicle for a gas company, won it in an auction. Aside from that, aside from the vacuum leaks, it's a good, sturdy, strong truck. It's the Ford F-250 with the 5.4 liter V8 Triton. If you like Fords, that's a good engine, good truck setup. It's got the heavy-duty transmission. All the parts on this are pretty much F-250 parts, except for some of the suspension and obviously some of the body work. That's all F-150, but it's got a lot of the more heavy-duty parts on it, so has a lot more towing power than your standard F-150. It's a decent truck, Aside from the whole CNG mess, it's a good truck, but I personally wouldn't recommend picking one of these up with the CNG because of the failure rate of the CompuValve and how much of a headache that is. To replace the CompuValve, to get that whole setup working again, a new CompuValve, since they don't make them anymore, will cost you between $2,500 and $3,000. So obviously that's not going to be something I'm going to be doing to this truck, but I was excited when I bought it because I thought, dual tanks, that's double the